especially with 2 weeks to prepare.
Yeah, I was just talking about that. I thought that we were ready to go. I thought, we started with energy. Obviously, our execution was not anywhere where it needed to be offensively. We missed the first 2 big plays, get behind them, an overthrow and a drop. After starting fast with a turnover, coming out of the gate with field position, and then give up a long drive. And so, the start of the game was fast, but we didn't continue with the way we started the game. And then, we didn't do enough offensively in the first half to really get things done and keep the game the way it needed to be from I think we had 22 plays in the first half.
Yes, sir, 33 yards.
Yeah, and so a lot of 3 and outs, a lot of things there that execution-wise left a lot to be desired.
Second row, Ben.
Kevin, what happened to Kellen, and why did you decide to keep Nick in for the remainder of the fourth quarter?
Yeah, I just didn't like the way, he looked when he got hit. He just – it was you're talking about why I did that. On the personal foul, because he got hit up high. And so he was kind of laid there for a little bit, and then he got up, and I just didn't like the way he looked. Told him and made him take a knee, and then I gave Nick some time to warm up, and then he got in there and getting some snaps and doing some things like he was right there was. I thought he just needed to keep going. So it doesn't really change anything from our depth chart, but it was a chance that it all started with the personal foul.
Travis, hand. You good? All right. To the back, Daryl.
So, Coach, if Kellen wouldn't have gotten hit, would he have remained in the game the rest of the game if he could have played?
I'm not into, those types of questions. I don't, are you saying?
Well, let me rephrase it. You weren't planning on replacing Kellen until he got hit?
It hadn't really crossed my mind at that point. So, when he got hit, I didn't like the way it looked. And that's why Nick was there.
Ben.
Kevin, how would you assess the offense in the last few games?
Well, I think each one of them is they're mutually exclusive. Tonight was very frustrating. Particularly in the first half, when we had some opportunities, and it's a combination of things. We the second series we came out and ran the ball pretty well, like 4 or 5 yards a pop, and then. You talk about quarterback play or anything like that. We had probably more drops than one of the interceptions. The interceptions, is a drop, bobble ball, and so we dropped a touchdown. We had one hit off of us for a pick. The quarterback. It's not all on the quarterback. I put it that way, and so we have to make plays in those tight situations. We're going to get loaded boxes. We're going to get man-to-man coverage. We're going to get pressure on a young quarterback. But in those situations, we're going to have one-on-one competitive plays, which, the last 3 weeks we've made enough of those to win. Tonight, I don't know that we made any of them, in those competitive situations. We got guys wide open. McCann Buckley makes a play, and what a great effort that was at the end of the game, 10, 15 yards dragging people. But competitive balls, things like that are close, we didn't do that tonight. We've done that for the last couple of weeks to have enough and to keep people honest in our run game. And there were times where we were able to run it really effectively. But you get down 14, 21 points, the clock becomes a factor when you're running for 4 yards at a time and taking time off the clock.
Down front, Travis.
just for clarification, when you said Kellen was hit high and you didn't like the way it looked, does that have to do with like head injury type thing?
No,
or
I'm not
something
saying
else?
that. I'm not speculating about anything. I just didn't like the way it looked, And when there's a guy down there who's laying on the field, it'd be different. I mean, it's no different for any player, whether that's a D lineman or anything like that. And it's probably why there was a penalty call.
Third row, Olin.
Kevin, how do you think y'all did defensively against Fitzgerald?
Yeah, the key coming into the game is we knew, everybody knew. I talked about it, Tuesday? When he has been successful, they've been successful. He would he get 100 and what?
105 rushing.
105 rushing.
141 passing.
And I think the thing that's one thing to try to contain him, but he also was able to throw some balls that he completed some balls into some tight windows, one on third down in the middle of the field and between two or three people. He made some big time throws. I mean, he played well tonight. And when he's been successful this year, they've been successful. Not to take away from the other part of the team, but there's a direct correlation between his play and their success. And he was successful tonight.
Right side, Gabe, and then down front, Zach.
There was a stretch there where three or four games ago where you probably felt like you had your best five offensive linemen, but they've really struggled of late. Where do you go from here up front?
Yeah, we got Keaton back, and I thought early in the game, they brought some different pressures that we hadn't seen before. Towards the end, third quarter, when we made some adjustments in our protection in the second half, wasn't nearly as effective as maybe the first and second quarter. And you're talking about in protection too, right? Because there were some issues in the first half. And so we made some adjustments in the second half that I think showed up and gave us the opportunity to protect our quarterbacks. And, we've got a five. I think getting Keaton back, he really practiced a couple days with walkthroughs and things like that to get you back up to speed for a game like this. It took him some time to get going today too. So, I think the big thing is we're not jumping around all over the place. Just playing just some more consistency out of the front. And in order to do that, we've got to keep guys healthy and keep some continuity in that situation.
Down front to the left, Zach, and then Ben, you'll wrap us up.
Sort of more or less answered part of my question. That was Connor came in and was saying that they were throwing a lot of different fronts that maybe weren't expected,
right,
or the amount of times that they used it.
The amount of times, yes.
Yeah, and you saw that, and you felt like you guys made some pretty good adjustments at half of that.
I don't know. We didn't win the game, so we didn't. I don't know if we made some adjustments that helped us in the second half from a protection standpoint. It limited some other things in what we did, but it was to communicate that and get those adjustments was a positive, but the results were not nearly what we needed to win the game.
Second row, Ben, you wrap us up.
Kevin, when you and Noel have talked about what the scheme needs to look like under Kellen, what have those conversations consisted of?
What do you mean?
When you and Noel have talked about the offense and what the scheme needs to look like under Kellen, what
right,
have those conversations consisted of, and what have they looked like?
No, I mean it's been a growth every week of what that what he can do, what he is getting better at, and I think from a run game standpoint, what he's comfortable with and how much we're going to run him, because when he has run, he has been effective. But he's not, he's not 6'5", 220 pounds either, and so, we're aware of that. He's got to be effective to do that, and then also in our passing game, knowing what I talked about earlier with loaded boxes, the ability to use him as a runner to balance up some of those things, becomes important. And then secondly, the ability to make competitive plays on the perimeter versus man coverage and versus blitzes and things like that. So what he's comfortable with, what we can give him to make it quarterback friendly. But in the end, it comes down to situationally making plays, and particularly on third down. And we didn't do that tonight.
All right. Thanks, Coach.